guys, I'm sitting here coloring and I came up with a little bit of a technique that I wanted to share. I've not seen this done before. Um, I'm working on this picture and I'm wanting this to look very Victorian and old, antique-y kind of look to it. And I was thinking in terms of what I wanted to do with these walls and started thinking about whitewashing and staining, how you would deposit color and then wipe it off to give wood an aged look. And I was wondering if I could do the same type of thing or achieve a textured and older effect in my picture with the same kind of principle. So I started fooling around. You can see the top here, how the color is so much darker than down here. What I did was I went over all of this maybe 5 times. I put about 5-6 layers of color on. I'm using the green gold Faber-Castell Polychromos, and in between layers of that I actually used a Prismacolor in beige just to make the green gold a little bit more muted, I guess. And I also wanted to play with wax and oil pigment to see if I could do this with both. So once I put all of the color down, you'll have to excuse me here. I'm holding my my phone with one hand and I'm trying to color with the other one. So once I got all my color deposited, I went in with this is a Chameleon colorless blender. I'm sure you could use any colorless blender pen. If you have a Prismacolor one laying around, you could probably use that. I went over all of the pigment that I just put down on the paper. I wanted to liquefy it and push it into the tooth of the paper. So I went over all of it with a colorless blender. I'd say once quickly, maybe some areas I went over twice. I really just wanted to liquefy that pigment and make sure that a wash of it was all over the paper before I went back in. And it was starting to look aged that way. It was mottled and starting to look like what I wanted it to, but I didn't like how streaky it started to look. And I really don't want these walls to look new. I want them to look like they have, they were painted a long time ago. So once the colorless blender dried on my paper, I went in with an eraser. Now this is a Faber-Castell, a pencil style eraser, which Tracy and I picked up at the Mona Lisa sale not too long ago. I wouldn't use a white latex eraser or an eraser that's very smooth, that has no texture. The Tombow sand eraser would be really awesome for this. This works really well. I find this to be a little bit gritty. You definitely want an eraser with some texture. So once the colorless blender that I put over, once that dries, I went in with an eraser like you would a rag if you were staining or whitewashing. I went in with the eraser and started removing that top layer of pigment. Now you have to be patient with this process because it does take a little while. You can see that right here, that pigment's already starting to come off. I did this slowly, kind of in stages, because I wanted to make sure that I was taking off the right amount of pigment and not too much. You can already see here how different that's starting to look. This is like perfect Saturday afternoon coloring while you're binge watching Netflix and having a tea or a glass of wine. I'm sitting in my pajamas right now coloring. I hope you guys are too. So I just went in and just kept taking off little bits of that pigment. And what I'm left with once I've done this stage is I'm getting a really nice wash of this gold color. You can see right here though, I've taken off more in certain areas to make it look really distressed and aged. And I'm left with what looks like a little bit of that wall coming through in areas, which is what it would look like if you had painted it years ago, right? So in essence, it's like whitewashing, but on paper. Now, once I'm all done, I'll take a picture for you guys. It's not translating perfectly on camera for sure. It's definitely, the effect is much more, well, it's much more beautiful in person than it is on film, but you guys know that from taking pictures of your own coloring. It's really hard to take super accurate pictures, but I'm having a lot of fun with this. And even look from like here to here, I'm starting to get this really distressed look here. I'm having tons of fun doing it. So I don't know if this is already a technique. I've not seen it before. I'm going to call it Jolene's whitewashing technique, and I hope you guys try it. Okay, have an awesome weekend.